All right, so let's jump into studying in Europe. I bet a lot of you listening are aiming high, thinking about those top-tier universities with acceptance rates that are just crazy low. But hey, a little competition never hurt anyone, right? To boost your chances, though, we're doing a deep dive today on the application process. More specifically, the documents you'll need to get together. We've got this super helpful article by Olivia at University called Documents Required to Study in Europe to help guide us through this.
It's a great place to start. And while these specific requirements you'll need can feel a little bit like a choose your own adventure story depending on the country and the program you're going for, this deep dive should give you a solid roadmap to navigate that maze.
Perfect. Now, everyone knows about application forms, but I'm guessing they're not as simple as they seem. What kind of pitfalls should we watch out for?
You're right, they're usually not simple. Those forms are like the first impression you make. It's like showing up for a job interview in your pajamas. Definitely not the best look, right? So you want to triple check everything, make sure it's all accurate and complete. Don't rush it. Pay close attention to any specific formatting or word count limits they might have.
Okay, noted. No application form faux pas for us. What about proving our academic skills? Transcripts, right?
Exactly. Official transcripts and degree certificates are a must. And here's where it gets a little tricky. Sometimes universities want transcripts from all your previous institutions, not just the most recent one.
Whoa, all of them. Isn't that a bit much? What if someone went to like 5 different schools?
It can seem like a lot, but remember they want a complete picture of your whole academic journey. And for some programs, consistency is key. They want to see you've been a high achiever all along, not just at your last school.
That makes sense. All right, so gather everything just in case. Now, what about language proficiency? That's got to be a big one for studying in Europe, right?
Absolutely. Most universities require proof that you can actually handle the language of instruction. That usually means tests like the IELTS, TOEFL, or TestDaF if you're thinking about going to Germany.
I'm guessing choosing the right test depends on the program and the country you're applying to.
You got it. Do your research early on. Don't assume one test fits all.
All right, so let's say I've got my academic record all together and I've figured out which language test to take. What about making my application really stand out? What are those wow factors?
Now things are getting interesting. Your statement of purpose, or SOP, is where you really shine. It's your personal narrative, not just a list of everything you've done.
So it's more about telling a story than bragging about myself.
Exactly. Why are you so passionate about this field? What unique experiences and perspectives do you bring? How will this specific program help you achieve your long-term goals? That's the kind of stuff that grabs their attention.
Okay, so it's about connecting my past, my present, and my future in a way that makes them say, we need this person.
Precisely. And don't forget about getting some really strong letters of recommendation. Having professors or mentors vouch for your abilities adds another layer of credibility to your application.
Right, because they've seen you putting in the work. It's not just you saying you're awesome, it's someone else confirming it.
Exactly. It paints a more well-rounded picture of you as a student and as someone who could contribute to their academic community.
Got it. So we've talked about grades, language skills, and a killer SOP. What about that all-important document, the CV? It's not just for job hunting, right?
Absolutely not. Your CV, when you're applying for university, is like a highlight reel of your whole academic journey. You're showcasing your skills, relevant coursework, research projects, and any extracurriculars that demonstrate your passions and show that you're well-rounded.
So even that volunteer work at the animal shelter or being captain of the debate team could help.
You never know what might catch their eye. It's all about showing them you're more than just a set of grades. You're a person with interests, drive, and the potential to contribute to their community.
Okay, that's reassuring. I'm starting to see how all these documents are like puzzle pieces that create a complete picture as who I am.
Exactly. And that picture needs to be compelling enough to make them say, we want this person on our campus.
All right, so we've tackled the academic side of things. What about the more practical, logistical stuff? I'm assuming a valid passport is non-negotiable.
It's absolutely essential. And make sure it won't expire while you're studying abroad. That's a mistake you don't want to make.
Good point. I would not want to be stuck renewing my passport in a foreign country. What about those passport-sized photos? Are those as important as everyone says?
They're like the unsung heroes of the application process. You'll need them for various forms, visa applications, even your student ID. My advice, get a bunch printed at once and keep them handy. It's a small thing that'll save you a lot of trouble later.
Okay, passport photos. Check and check. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Finances, proving you can actually afford to live and study in Europe.
Right, because those croissants and weekend trips to Paris don't pay for themselves. But seriously, you need to prove you can cover both tuition and living expenses. This is where things like bank statements, scholarship letters, or sponsor guarantees come in.
So it's not enough to just say, hey, I'm good for it. You need the paperwork to back it up. What if someone's relying on savings and family support? What documents would they need then?
They'd probably need a few different things. Recent bank statements showing their savings, a letter from their family outlining their financial commitment, and maybe even proof of their family's income.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty detailed. Makes sense, though. They want to make sure you're financially stable and won't be struggling to pay bills while studying.
Exactly. And keep in mind, every country has its own financial requirements for student visa, so do your research early.
Good reminder. It's all about being prepared. Speaking of which, what about health insurance? Is that something I need to worry about now, or can I figure it out later?
Health insurance is another crucial piece of the puzzle, and it's best to sort it out sooner rather than later. A lot of European countries require international students to have health insurance, but the policies can be very different, so research is key.
So don't just assume my current health insurance will cover me overseas.
Definitely not. You'll probably need a plan that meets the specific requirements of the country you're going to. Some universities even offer their own health insurance plans for international students.
Okay, so another thing to research, it feels like we're creating a pre-departure checklist here.
We are, and trust me, being thorough with all the details now will save you a lot of headaches and potential stress in the future.
I believe it. Now, I know we still have a lot to discuss, like the visa application process, but I think this is a good place to take a break.
Sounds good to me. We've built a good foundation, and in the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore some of the finer points and strategies for really making those documents work in your favor.
Stay tuned, everyone. Welcome back, everyone. So we covered a ton of ground in the last part, from application forms to finances, but I have a feeling there's more to this whole document thing than we've talked about.
You're definitely right. It's not just about checking boxes. You need to be strategic and use these documents to tell your unique story.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more about this strategy.
Okay, so think of it like this. You're directing your own little application movie. Each document is like a scene. And all together, they make this compelling narrative that shows off your strengths and potential.
I love that analogy. How do we make sure if our movie is a box office hit with the admissions committee?
Let's start with the SOP. We talked about storytelling, but what does that actually look like, when you're writing?
Yeah, what are the secrets to making an SOP really jump out from the pile?
It's about showing them who you really are, not just repeating stuff from your CD. Don't be afraid to talk about your passions, your motivations, even your doubts and challenges.
So it's okay to be a little vulnerable. Show them we're human.
Absolutely. Being vulnerable can be incredibly powerful. It shows that you're self-aware and that you're willing to learn and grow.
Interesting. I always thought they'd want to see someone who's perfect.
Nope. They want to see real people with real experiences and goals, share a story that shows your resilience, your determination, a time you stepped outside your comfort zone.
Well, good story with a touch of realness. Got it. Now, what about recommendation letters? How do we make sure those are really singing our praises?
This is important. Choose your recommenders carefully. Don't just go for the professor with the most impressive name. Pick people who really know you well, have seen what you can do, and can talk about those specific strengths and skills that match the programs you want.
So someone who can say more than just, they got an A in my class.
Exactly. You want someone who can give real examples of what you've done, your work ethic, your ability to think critically and be creative.
Right, because that's the stuff that shows you're ready for a challenging academic setting.
Precisely. And don't forget to give them plenty of time and all the information they need.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not fair to just spring it on them last minute.
Nope. They're doing you a favor, so be respectful and give them everything they need so they can write you a good letter. Which, of course, helps you too.
Makes sense. Okay, so what about the CV? We talked about showcasing your academic journey, but how much detail is too much? I don't want to overload them with every single thing I've ever done.
That's a good point. Think of your CV as like a curated collection of your best stuff, not just a giant list. Tailor it to each program you're applying to, highlighting the experiences and skills that are most relevant to what they're looking for.
So it's like I'm making a mini portfolio that's designed to impress each university.
You got it. If a program really cares about research, highlight your research experience. If they want leadership skills, show them how you were involved in student organizations.
I see what you mean. We need to be really strategic with every single document. It's like we're playing chess with our future.
Exactly. And just like in chess, every move matters. So let's talk about another important move, figuring out all those program-specific requirements.
Yes, because we've been discussing general documents, but I know some programs have their own little quirks.
Absolutely. This is where thorough research is really important. Don't assume anything. Read every single thing on the program's website. Go to online info sessions, and don't be shy about contacting the admissions office directly if you've got questions.
So it's better to be a little annoying and ask a lot of questions than to miss something important.
100%. I've seen students miss out on their dream programs just because they didn't send in a required portfolio or didn't follow the right format for a recommendation letter. Don't let that happen to you.
Noted. I'll make sure to read every detail super carefully. Now, you mentioned extra entry tests earlier. Can you explain what those are?
So language tests are pretty standard, but some programs, especially for grad school, require other standardized tests like the GRE or GMAT.
Oh, yeah, the GRE. I remember that test. How do I know if I need to take one of these extra tests?
It should be clearly stated on the program's website, but when in doubt, just reach out to the admissions office. They're your go-to for any program-specific questions.
Okay, so we've got our academic plan, our documents are all set, and we triple check those program requirements. What about that scary visa application process? That's a whole other thing, right?
It can be pretty intimidating, but you can handle it if you're organized. And remember, you only need to worry about this after you've gotten that acceptance letter.
Okay, phew, that's a relief. No stressing about visas until I actually get accepted.
Celebrate getting in first, then focus on the visa.
That sounds like a good plan. But what if someone's applying to programs in different countries? Do they have to do multiple visa applications?
It's possible. Each country has its own visa rules and processes, so you'll need to look into that for each program you get accepted to.
Okay, so research, research, research is the takeaway here.
You got it. Don't rely on rumors or outdated info. Go straight to the source. The university's official website and the websites of the consulates or embassies for the countries you want to study in.
That's solid advice. We've really covered a lot of ground here, and I feel like I'm starting to understand this whole process. But it's definitely more than just filling out forms and collecting documents, isn't it?
You're getting it. It's about showing off your potential, your passion, your story. It's about convincing those admissions committees that you're not just qualified, but that you're the perfect fit for their program and their community.
I love that way of looking at it. It's not just about getting accepted. It's about finding the best place for you to really succeed.
Exactly. And when you think about the application process that way, it becomes less about checking boxes and more about showing them your best self.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired. But I also know that this can be a really stressful process. Any advice for when those doubts start creeping in and all the paperwork feels impossible?
First off, remember that everyone feels that way. Every student who applies to study abroad goes through it. Talk to friends or family who've done it, connect with other students online who are applying to similar programs, or talk to your university's study abroad office for support.
It's so easy to get stressed and forget that there are people who've been through this and can help.
Exactly. And don't forget to take care of yourself. Take breaks, do things you enjoy, and celebrate all the little wins along the way.
Yes, celebrate finishing those applications, acing those language tests, even getting through a tough research paper.
Exactly. Every step forward is a win. Remember, this is all about chasing your dreams, expanding your horizons, and becoming a global citizen.
That's a great way to put it. It's not just the destination, it's the journey.
Exactly. And sometimes the journey throws some unexpected stuff at you. So let's talk about some common mistakes students make and how to avoid them.
Okay, let's do that. Because forewarned is forearmed, right?
You bet. One of the biggest mistakes is that people don't realize how much time and effort it takes. This is not a last-minute kind of thing. Getting all those documents translated and certified if you need to, writing essays, prepping for tests, it all takes time.
So procrastination is not going to be helpful here.
Nope. Start early, make a plan, and break the whole process down into smaller steps. That way you won't be freaking out at the deadline and maybe messing up your chances.
Right, a rushed application never looks good.
Exactly. Another common mistake is not really paying close attention to those program-specific requirements we mentioned. I've seen students miss out on great programs because they didn't realize they needed a portfolio or a certain type of recommendation letter.
Ouch, that's rough. So the lesson is read everything carefully, maybe even twice. And if anything is unclear, just reach out to the university.
Absolutely. Most admissions offices are happy to answer questions and make sure everything is clear. It's better to be safe than sorry.
Okay, so we've discussed the practical stuff, the potential problems, and the emotional roller coaster of applying to study abroad. Let's zoom out for a second, talk about the bigger picture. Why should anyone even think about studying in Europe?
Okay, so besides the obvious stuff like new cultures, languages, and travel, there are some really good academic reasons too. European universities have a long history of being really good academically. A lot of them are ranked among the best in the world.
And often at a way lower cost than similar schools in the U.S.
That's a huge plus. And don't forget about what it can do for your career. Having international experience on your resume can really make you stand out to employers, especially now with the global job market.
It shows you're adaptable and culturally aware and willing to try new things. Those are all important in any job. Plus, you'll have contacts all over the world, which is never a bad thing.
You got it. So even though applying might seem a little scary at first, the payoff of studying in Europe can be huge. It's an investment in your education, your career, and yourself.
That's what makes this whole deep dive so important. Before we wrap up, though, I want to make sure our listener has some concrete steps they can take. What can they do right now to get this European study ball rolling?
Great question. First, figure out your academic goals and find programs that match your interests and what you want to do. Don't be afraid to dream big and explore universities in countries you haven't thought about before.
So start with why. Why do I want to do this, and what do I hope to get out of it?
Exactly. Once you know what you want, you can narrow down your choices and make a list of programs. Then dive into those program websites and get all the info you need about admissions deadlines and how to apply.
Okay, so research is key. What else should we be doing early on?
Talk to your university's study abroad office. They can give you great advice and connect you with students who've studied abroad before. They can help you with the whole process.
That's such a good resource, and so many people don't use it enough. Don't be afraid to ask them for help.
For sure, they're there to help you every step of the way. And finally, start thinking about those important documents we talked about.
Like getting transcripts, brainstorming ideas for my SOP, reaching out to people for recommendations.
Exactly. The sooner you start, the less stressful it'll be. And don't get lost in the paperwork. Keep your eye on the prize, that amazing adventure that's waiting for you.
I love that. It's about remembering why you're doing this, the excitement of a new culture, a new academic setting, pushing yourself in ways you never thought you could.
Exactly. That's what makes it all worthwhile.
Okay, we're back for the last part of our deep dive on studying in Europe. We've talked about all those important documents, strategic tips, and even how this whole process can feel. But I'm wondering about those little secrets, the things that could really make your application stand out.
Ah, you're thinking like a pro. And you're right, there are some things people don't always think about, like cultural fit.
Okay, cultural fit. What does that even mean when we're talking about university applications?
It means showing that you get and appreciate the values and the way things work academically at the university and in the country you're applying to. It's about showing them that you won't just do well in your classes, but that you'll be a good part of their community.
So it's not just about grades and test scores. It's about showing them I'm a good fit for their whole vibe.
Exactly, and you can do this by talking about certain experiences in your SOP and CV. For example, have you done any international exchange programs or volunteer work or research projects that show you have a global mindset and you're culturally aware?
I see. So connect the dots between what I've done and what they care about. What are some other things people often miss?
Really think about why you're choosing the programs you're choosing, why this particular program in this particular country. They want to see that you've actually done your research and that your choices make sense for your goals.
So don't just send the same generic SOP to every school.
No way. You need to tailor each application to show you're genuinely interested and that you understand what makes that program special.
Okay, customization is important. What about those extra things, that might not be required but could make my application even better?
Now you're talking, this is where you can be creative and show them who you are. For example, having a website or an online portfolio can be a really cool way to show off your work, especially if you're in a creative field.
That's a good idea. It's like a step up from the regular resume and lets them see my skills and experiences.
Exactly, and it shows initiative, which is always good. You could even think about making a short video introduction to include with your application. It's a chance to let your personality shine through and make them remember you.
A video, that's a bold move. But I can see how it could help me stand out, especially if I can show how excited I am about the program.
Exactly. Just make sure it's well-made, professional, and actually add something to your application. Don't just do it to be flashy.
Right. Quality over quality. We've talked a lot about strategy, but I bet a lot of people listening are feeling overwhelmed. Like, how am I supposed to do all of this?
It's totally normal to feel that way. This is a lot to handle, and it's super important to be kind to yourself. Don't try to do everything at once. Break it down into smaller steps. Set deadlines you can actually meet and celebrate your progress.
It's like that saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Talk to your family and friends, reach out to mentors, find online communities of students going through the same thing, or even think about working with a consultant who helps people apply to study abroad.
There's nothing wrong with asking for help. It actually shows you're strong and resourceful. So as we wrap up this whole deep dive, what are the main takeaways you want our listeners to remember?
Most importantly, believe in yourself and your dream of studying in Europe. You can totally do this. Second, research is everything. Don't guess or assume anything. Dig deep and get all the info you need to make smart choices. Third, be strategic. Use every document, every chance you get to tell your story and show off what you're good at. And lastly, don't be afraid to get help and celebrate your wins along the way.
That's great advice. It's a journey, not a race, so it's okay to mess up, ask for directions, and take breaks.
Exactly. And remember, this is about way more than just getting into a university. It's about growing as a person, learning about different cultures, and seeing the world in a new way. It's about trying new things and figuring out who you are.
That's what makes it all so amazing. To everyone out there getting ready to start this journey, we say go for it. Chase your dreams, take on the challenges, and get ready for an experience that will change your life.
And remember, we're rooting for you. Good luck.
That's a wrap for our deep dive today. We're so excited for you, and we can't wait to hear all about your European adventures.